Hey, Hunter, how you doing?
Doing excellent. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. Hey, so me and Hunter are here at the Bermuda Innovation Sprint, and we're just having a talk about some of the questions people ask us about VEN, our digital currency. So we thought it might be kind of fun for us to have a little conversation where you could ask me the questions and everybody else can hear the answers.
Absolutely.
So fire away.
So one of the things that I was curious about is I keep hearing that VEN is a very stable coin. Essentially, it's been built such that it is a backed coin. So would you like to explain how that operates and why you chose to build a system that operated in this way?
That's a good question. So first of all, the first thing to understand is that VEN is an asset-backed digital currency. So that means that we are essentially like a central reserve. We issue the currency, but we only issue it when a payment or an order for the currency is coming in on the other side, which means there are reserves behind it. And when a person purchases VEN, we take that money and then we diversify it into the underlying assets. So VEN is different than like a traditional stable coin like Tether or something that has a backing to the US dollar. It is actually, first of all, predating blockchain, so it was launched in 2007. And when we launched it, we were kind of the only digital currency out there. So we thought, for people to take this seriously, we need to put an asset backing behind it. And we in fact started with an asset backing to the dollar. So 10 VEN equaled $1. But then we thought if it really should be global, or we want it to be global, we should diversify that asset backing to be a wide range of assets. And so over time, and by 2009, this process was complete, we started adding other currencies and then commodities and carbon. So what that means is like, if one VEN equals 100% of a bunch of other assets, those assets are divided into some percentage rate of 100%. So it could be 10% dollar, 7% carbon, 5% gold, 12% euro, 4% renminbi. You know, we don't exactly reveal the ratio, but all those things add up to 100%. And that's how we get to what we call an asset-backed digital currency that's highly diversified. Now what happens is that some of those things go up in value and some go down in value, and over time, and you know, just by their own sort of like momentum, they tend to cancel each other out, so that over time, the value of VEN has remained very, very stable. And that's really just for the primary market. The other thing is the secondary market, right? So that's just us issuing VEN at what we call the algorithmic rate, which is effectively issued by our AI. Now, in secondary markets, you would have potentially buyers and sellers who might put a premium or a discount on VEN, depending on whether or not they thought it was something that they wanted to sell at a discount. Like, I need money right now, so I'm going to sell my VEN at 50% off, or there's a lot of demand for VEN, and so I'm going to upmarket. Now, that hasn't really happened very much because VEN has been limited from secondary market trading. We did trade on exchanges for a while, and then we had to pull back as we looked at regulatory issues. And so as VEN starts to move back into these things, into these secondary markets, you might start to see some volatility, but fundamentally, we can match that volatility with a buy or sell order based on the reserves that we have in the market. So fundamentally, VEN remains very stable.
Okay. And so when we talk about these exchanges that you're referencing, what exchanges are they? Where are you now? Where are you moving to? What's exciting in the future?
Well, so we have been limited. You don't see VEN on crypto exchanges for a very good reason, which is we've been limited about our ability to do so. And it sounds silly when there are 30,000 tokens now out in the world, but we've been very judicious, and we've been very close with regulators and with the law to make sure that VEN's use has been within the realm of what's really fully acceptable. So that's been great for us in some ways because it's given us entree to some discussions we wouldn't have had otherwise, but it's also been limiting. So as we work on bank licensing or cryptocurrency licensing capabilities, that's going to allow us to provide what we call exit to the currency. So right now with VEN, you can buy goods and services through our network and through a wide variety of places, but you really need to be able to cash out via an exchange or something like that that is done with a regulated banking partner, and those sorts of things are coming along. But I'd say the first place that we're really looking at is Ultra, which is our exchange we launched in May, and Ultra is a system for tokenized assets. And so there are a range of tokenized assets that are getting minted through our platform and onto the Ultra exchange. And then once they're there, they can mingle with other types of digital assets, cryptocurrencies, things like that. And then eventually, very soon, you'll be able to withdraw from those asset trades back into a wallet, either in Hub Culture or even to your bank account. But that's really, connected to some of these regulatory clearances that are happening.
It sounds like you've got a lot of exciting things coming up from the regulatory standpoint and in terms of the integrations that you're doing. So in terms of getting into other blockchains and additional forms of liquidity, I know
that's the question for you,
yeah,
right?
I was going to say, this is really the other side of the coin is, I guess, where I come in.
Yeah, so let's flip this conversation around. So
right.
When we talk about security architectures for Venn, you and your firm have been helping us build integrations to the blockchain so that Venn can operate from the central Venn reserve into verified, auditable and traceable transaction mechanisms inside other blockchains. So let's talk about our build for Ethereum and how that's going to extend into Hyperledger and that sort of thing. So tell us what you've built to bring Venn into the blockchain.
Essentially what we built is a custom ERC20 contract that allows you to both have a deposit of these assets from the back-end architecture and do that in a controlled manner so that you can always know that the deposit will be posted and then cleared intentionally at some later point. This allows for an interval of security coverage in case anything were to ever go wrong, you could interrupt the flow. Now, what this means is essentially we have a smart contract system that enables the actions of the end user to take the Venn asset out of your secure backend and move it into the blockchain, into this fully auditable environment. And this bridge that we've constructed means that we can also integrate with any other chain that carries the Ethereum virtual machine. So in terms of things like Hyperledger Burrow, or in terms of Hyperledger Fabric with the EVM integration, this means that you can utilize these auditable records of transfers of value in such a way that they have essentially a bridge between them. And this is what a lot of people have been building in different places for specific assets, but this is one of the only ones I'm aware of that's attempting to bridge between Hyperledger and the Ethereum blockchain, which I personally find really exciting, and I'm incredibly happy that I could be one of the people to work with you on that technology.
Yeah, and so for a simple guy like me, that basically says to me that you can have your Venn inside of Hub Culture and Venn.vc and our ecosystem running on our very fast network.
Yep.
But now you can actually then move your Venn into the Ethereum world or into the Hyperledger world where potentially you can find new use cases and that sort of thing. Do you have a sense of like how Venn might perform in these other environments? Do you think that it'll find different use cases, or that the cost of moving a transaction in these other networks, like right now on our network, there's no charge for moving a Venn transaction.
Yep.
And of course it's KYC'd and it comes with identity linked. Let's talk a little bit about how you're building those things into these tokenized environments.
The ability to move a asset into the Ethereum blockchain, as I was talking about earlier, has a deposit and a clearance mechanism. That's 2 transactions. So depending on the gas price, this could be something of the range of a few pennies up to maybe 20 to 50 cents in the worst case.
That's the worst case meaning a very high Ethereum price.
Well, yeah, very high gas price or Ethereum price, yes. So, and gas price doesn't always move with Ethereum, but it tends to trend in that way. But what we see is that if you're doing transfers into the Ethereum network, it's incredibly useful because it opens up all of the environments and the ecosystem that's available within the Ethereum blockchain. But like many things in the Ethereum blockchain, this is one of the slower blockchain networks for the purpose of ensuring this guaranteed absolute global security on the scale of the Ethereum network.
Right.
And so we always have to compromise something in terms of technology, so we have a little bit more expense at like this immutable perfect record. I won't say perfect, but close to. Where when we go into something like Hyperledger, what we get is we get an incredibly secure auditable record that's much faster and at much less cost. And so I think that it depends very much on what services you're attempting to utilize the asset for, be it something that's available inside of the Ethereum network and its ecosystem, or whether it's something that is available within a clearance mechanism inside of, say, a public permissioned Hyperledger environment, and how that kind of pans out. But my suspicion is that through your back end, the operational costs will be lower due to the private infrastructure that surrounds that. The next level up in terms of cost, but different forms of security depending on the application that one desires, would be, of course, the Hyperledger network, which is much faster and much lower cost than Ethereum, but not as insanely over secure as the Ethereum network can be at times. And then you have, of course, the slowest thing, which is the Ethereum blockchain itself, and the greater cost.
So any other questions about how Venn is structured? Or, a lot of people ask us like, hey, because Venn has been, say, on the Open Audit Initiative, where we've been registering transactions for years now, you can see every single transaction across Ultra, Venn, and Zeek, our AI system, on the OAI.
Yeah.
But now, like, there's this added layer of essentially, value to the network, right?
Well, it's about even increasing the auditability. And so the fact that you guys have been building out this auditable record of everything that's happened, what that does is it essentially secures the record of everything that's taken place up to this point. And now you are bridging your current system into this new era of all of the other forms of decentralized security models. And that's what's really exciting, is you get the best
Especially
of both
for
worlds.
Ultra. Yeah, exactly. Any other questions about Venn?
I can't think of any other questions offhand, but it's been
I
fun
have
to
about
work
a million
on.
about the
Yeah.
blockchain and how we continue to extend these services into decentralized systems. I think one of the really interesting things will be Propel and our new governance platform that we're building, and to see how that's going to start to intersect with voting rights and other things within the wider community. And then I think in another conversation, we should maybe get into some of the cool technologies that you guys are building that could be applied into the world of blockchain for bigger clients. So that's our Seaside Chat at sunset here at the Bermuda Innovation Sprint. Thanks so much. It's nice to talk about Venn and see the big interactions and integrations that are coming, because people often ask me about that. But when it gets to the nitty-gritty of the tech, somebody like yourself really adds a lot of color. So thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been fun.
Yeah, great. So we'll see you soon at hubculture.com and on hublive.tv for more content, ideas, and inspiration from the Bermuda Innovation Sprint. Obviously, here at the beach.
Yeah.
Thanks.